John had always dreamed of owning his own business. He had spent years working in the corporate world, saving up every penny he could in order to fund his dream. Finally, he had enough money to start his own restaurant. John poured everything he had into the restaurant. He spent countless hours perfecting the menu, designing the space, and training his staff. He was convinced that his restaurant would be a huge success. However, after a few months of operation, John realized that things weren't going as well as he had hoped. The restaurant wasn't getting as many customers as he had anticipated, and the expenses were starting to pile up. Despite these setbacks, John refused to give up. He had invested too much time and money into the restaurant to simply walk away. He was convinced that if he just worked harder and made a few tweaks to the menu and marketing strategy, the restaurant would eventually take off. But, as time went on, things only got worse. John was hemorrhaging money, and the stress of running the restaurant was starting to take a toll on his health and relationships. He was constantly working, but he never seemed to be able to get ahead. One day, John's friend, a successful business owner, came to visit him at the restaurant. After a few minutes of small talk, John's friend could tell that something was wrong. "What's going on, John?" he asked. John sighed. "The restaurant isn't doing as well as I thought it would. I'm losing money every month, and I'm not sure how much longer I can keep this up." His friend nodded sympathetically. "Have you heard of the sunk cost fallacy?" John shook his head. "It's a cognitive bias that causes us to continue investing in something, even if it's not working, simply because we've already invested so much time, money, or effort into it. We think that if we just keep going, eventually we'll see a return on our investment." John listened intently as his friend continued to explain the concept. It was as if a light bulb had gone off in his head. He realized that he had been falling victim to the sunk cost fallacy. He had been so focused on recouping his investment that he had lost sight of the bigger picture. Over the next few days, John thought long and hard about what his friend had said. He knew that he couldn't keep pouring money into the restaurant indefinitely. He needed to make a change. After much soul-searching, John made the difficult decision to close the restaurant. It was a painful choice, but he knew that it was the right one. He realized that his dream of owning a restaurant had become more of a burden than a passion, and he needed to let it go. At first, John felt like he had failed. He had invested so much time and money into the restaurant, and now it was all for nothing. But, as time went on, he began to realize that the experience had taught him some valuable lessons. He learned that it's important to know when to cut your losses and move on, even if it means admitting that you made a mistake. He learned that there's no shame in trying something and failing, as long as you learn from your mistakes and use them to improve in the future. Most importantly, he learned that his worth as a person wasn't tied to his success or failure as a business owner. He had friends, family, and a support system that loved him, regardless of whether he owned a successful restaurant or not. In the end, John was grateful for the experience, even if it didn't turn out the way he had hoped. He knew that he had grown as a person, and that he was stronger and wiser because of it.